So litigation, we're an personal injury law firm. I wanted to kind of have a moment where you and I, Ray, talked about what is a lawsuit and really how that process works. Because, people are so, absorbed that they see on TV or they see in a movie where someone has a civil claim, a lawsuit gets filed, and within 1 hour or a 2-hour movie, the case is tried, which is not the real world. So kind of wanted to share with our wonderful audience, how does litigation really work, in the real world? Because it's not like you see on TV or the movies. And so here's what happens, You've got a client, and thankfully we have thousands upon thousands who put their trust in us, and we'll relate this to an auto accident. So we're going to have John Q. client has a car wreck. We collect all their medical bills and medical records because that's what you have to do. You have to let them get through the medical phase so they can get well, and then, of course, we'll attempt to resolve the case with the at-fault party's insurance company. We'll set to the side an uninsured motorist claim. And unfortunately, insurance companies a lot of times put profits over people so that we're unable to get the case settled. Not still a minority part of the time, but the insurance companies are getting more challenging. So they make ultimately poor offer. We have a conversation with the client, and that's the cool thing that people don't realize is the client is the one who determines whether or not a lawsuit is going to be filed. It's not our decision. It's 100%, our client's decision. So we file a lawsuit. You kind of take it from there, Ray, and share with the audience, what does it take to file the lawsuit? And then, it's not the beginning of the end. There's a bunch of steps in between. So what kind of happens actually once your wonderful paralegal files the lawsuit and sends it to the court? What are the next steps in that process?
Well, you send the complaint, which is the document that the lawyers draw up that say, here's who the parties are, here's what happened, here's why it's their fault, and here's what we want. That's filed with the clerk of the court, who issues a summons, which is then served on the defendant. And then they have their lawyers, whether they're hired by the insurance company or their own lawyer, they look at it and they file an answer. And this is not a quick process. And, when you file a complaint, some people think, well, it goes straight to a judge and they look at it and know that the judges not even see the cases at this point.
That's right. Well, stop right there. Yeah, I'm going to jump in. You can hear the music, Ray. So we've gotten through segment number 1. So we're going to come back after this break. We'll kind of continue to talk about the litigation process here on the Richard Schwartz and Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour. You can certainly call us at 888-808-8637 on the Super Talk call line, and we'll be right back.
That process may take a month or two, actually, maybe a little bit longer. But once that settles, then you're into what's called a discovery phase. And that's where the parties find out really what the other side knows about the case and what they can find out. And that involves written questions called interrogatories, where you basically ask general questions where people worked, what other claims have you had, things like that. And then you go through a phase called depositions. This is when parties and witnesses can be deposed. That's where you sit down in front of a court reporter with all the lawyers. There's no judge present, but they can pretty much ask questions about a lot of things. And you go through that process and you do your best to tell the truth. And then once you get to that, then you look sometimes at a settlement conference or a mediation. And that phase may take a year or two, maybe a little bit longer. And if you're actually going to have to go to trial, that can take even longer because the courts are pretty full, and you have to go when you're able to. So it can be a long process if you can't settle a claim.
No, you're exactly right. So, as I tell folks, once you file suit, traditionally you kind of hit the nail on the head. The discovery phase is the longest process that takes because you are taking potential medical depositions, parties' depositions, answering written questions. There's a lot to, that as the case kind of develops. And we can talk more about that as we come back from this break as you listen to the Richard Schwartz and Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour. I am Patrick Wooten, joined by Ray O'Neill. You can certainly reach us on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395, or as always, give us a call on the Super Talk call line at 888-808-8637. Kind of been going through what happens when a lawsuit is filed, and Ray did a great job of kind of walking you through the process. Statistically, what I have heard across the state of Mississippi, of only 8% of cases actually go to trial. For every 100 civil cases that are filed across the state of Mississippi, 8 will actually make it to the inside of the courtroom, to go in front of a jury. Or, last case I actually tried, we got through voir dire, which is we picked the jury, and then we actually were able to resolve the case. But, our goal as a law firm is to get the best settlement possible for our client. If we can get that done without the necessity of litigation, we will do that every day. And that's our goal. We would like to be able to get cases resolved as quickly as possible when our clients have achieved maximum medical recovery, and we've sent the demand to the insurance company, But like we talked about in the very first segment, insurance companies are getting more and more challenging to deal with, and so we end up having to file more and more lawsuits against, the person who caused the wreck. And I guess that's probably one of the bigger misconceptions is you're not suing the insurance company. So if Ray were to, run into the back of my car at a red light, I'm suing Ray. It's Patrick versus Ray is how the lawsuit is titled, and Ray's the defendant, not his insurance company. Now having liability insurance coverage like Ray has, the insurance company will hire an attorney for Ray. They will pay for that attorney for Ray. Whatever limits of liability coverage that he paid for, is the quote unquote, pot of money that, I can go after, but I'm not suing Ray's insurance company because Ray's insurance company didn't hit me, Ray did. And a lot of people get confused by that, that they think I'm going to sue Ray's insurance company, but I'm not. That's not how that process works. So it's two individuals that ultimately, if you get to the courtroom, are sitting against from each other. The plaintiff, which is the person bringing the lawsuit, they're at a table with their attorneys. The defendant, in this case, in our scenario, Ray, is sitting there with his attorneys. And you can't even talk about insurance. That's what just boggles people's mind. You can't say, folks, Ray had ABC Insurance Company. You can't even bring that up in the courtroom. That is an immediate mistrial, in the state of Mississippi when you're taking a strict liability claim all the way to trial. So, there's just such nuances to a car wreck case that's out there that most people don't realize. And that's why you always need an attorney, an experienced law firm representing you in these type cases, because there's so many nuances through the whole process with regard to everything that is out there.